This is section 1.1, functions and function notation. So let's start by talking about the difference between a function and a relation. So a relation is just any set of ordered pairs. A function is a special type of relation where no input is repeated. So basically no x value is repeated. So if we're looking down here at the bottom, we have the first two are functions, but the last one isn't. Notice that in the last one, here we have two outputs that go with the one input q. So that makes it not a function. And then just a refresher that the domain is the set of all the inputs and the range is the set of all the outputs. So we want to determine if each relation is a function and then state the domain and range. So looking at this first one, this one is a function because all of our x values are different. So if we name our domain and range, so domain, I just am going to list all the x values. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're writing those in set notation. The range is going to be the set of all the y values. So 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Looking at the second one, first determining if it's a function or not. This one is not a function. It's just a regular relation because notice we have odd is repeated and so is even. So that makes it not a function. We can still name the domain and range. The domain is odd and even. Notice that if something's repeated in either the domain or the range, don't worry about writing it more than once. You just have to write it once. And then usually we go in numerical order if they're numbers. So let's talk about the range. That would be 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll leave that third one for you to figure out on your own. And then next we want to talk about functions. Let's talk a little bit more about them. So remember, we usually have them in the form of y equals f of x. So we say that as y is a function of x, where x is the input, and y, or f of x, is the output. So let's find the following values. Starting with f of 1, all we have to do is we got to look at our function, and wherever we see an x, we're now going to replace that with 1. So f of 1 becomes 1 squared plus 1, which is 2. So f of 1 equals 2. Let's try the next one, f of b. Okay, even though this is just a letter instead of a number, it still works the same way. Wherever we see an x, we're going to put b now. So b squared plus 1. That doesn't simplify, so we're going to leave it. Next one, f of a plus b. Okay, now we're getting a little bit more difficult. Same thing, wherever we see x, now we're going to put the quantity a plus b. So we have a plus b squared plus 1. Go ahead and multiply out that a plus b squared and simplify it down as much as you can. Last one, f of smiley face. Okay, this one's a little bit different yet because we had numbers, letters, and now we just have a smiley face. It still works the same way. So we have smiley face squared plus 1. Okay, all we're doing is substituting in values and simplifying. Let's talk about a little bit more about functions, one-to-one functions. So a one-to-one function is a function where each output corresponds with exactly one input. So if we go back up here, example B is a one-to-one function because notice each input goes to one output, which makes it a function. and each output is only correlated with one input. That makes it 1-to-1. So if we go to our examples, another way, so that's one way to look at it in terms of a set. So we are looking to see if any of the outputs repeat. If you are looking at a graph, if it passes the horizontal line test, it's 1-to-1. So remember, we have the vertical line test for functions, and then the horizontal line test is determining if the function is 1-to-1. So looking at this first graph, we got to determine if it's a function. This one, if I draw a line, a vertical line anywhere on here, okay, it only passes through it at most 1 time. So that means it is a function. Now let's try the horizontal line test. Okay, and then on that second line, notice that it passes the function more than once. So that means it is not 1-to-1. With this next one, horizontal line test, remember, tells us if it's a function. It is a function. Awesome. Let's check for 1-to-1. So that means we're going to do vertical line test. And it looks like anywhere I can draw a vertical line, it's not going to pass the function more than once. So yes, this is a 1-to-1 function. Last but not least, the circle. Let's see if we're drawing any vertical lines here. Notice that it doesn't pass the vertical line test, so this one is not a function. If you determine that it's not a function, 1-to-1 is irrelevant, so you can just move on to the next problem. So, vertical line test to see if it's a